I can't say what made me fall in love with Vietnam, that a woman's voice can drug you, that everything is so intense. The colors, the taste, even the rain. Nothing like the filthy rain in London. They say whatever you're looking for, you will find it here. They say you come to Vietnam and you understand a lot in a few minutes, but the rest has got to be lived. The smell, that's the first thing that hits you, promising everything in exchange for your soul. And the heat, your shirt is straightway a rag. You can hardly remember your name or what you came to escape from. But at night, there's a breeze, the river is beautiful. You could be forgiven for thinking there was no war, that the gunshots were fireworks, that only pleasure matters, a pipe of opium, or the touch of a girl who might tell you she loves you. And then something happens, as you knew it would, and nothing can ever be the same again. Those words are from Graham Greene in the novel The Quiet American. You can never leave Vietnam, nor America. Up next on the Crossing Ideas podcast. Welcome to the Crossing Ideas podcast. This is Mark Sasse, author of 13 novels, playwright fortunate enough to win some awards. The goal of this podcast is to use my vast overseas experience as a lens of looking at the world of today. If you like the podcast, please follow and rate it on Spotify or wherever you listen to the show. Make sure to turn on notifications and auto downloads so you'll never miss an episode. And please check out my works at mwsasse.com. That's mwsasse.com. Episode 12, the Season 1 finale. You never leave Vietnam, nor America. Graham Greene's writing in The Quiet American, describing Saigon in the 1950s, still resonates today. There's something in the air in Vietnam, and that something is not just one thing. In fact, Vietnam lends itself to thick, descriptive prose, perhaps more than any other place I've ever visited in the world. Here's an excerpt from my novel, The Reach of the Banyan Tree, describing the awakening of a typical morning in the Vietnamese countryside. This part of the Vietnamese countryside has witnessed little change through the centuries. The crooked-backed peasants face another daunting day every time the sun slips over the eastern ridge, greeting them with stoic reminders of the paddies which need tending. The giddy, shirtless, barefoot boys still ride the water buffaloes out through the paddy ridges to find slivers of green grazing that will keep the beasts contented until the next time they are needed to plow under the sun-baked soil, readying the field for another planting. The dawn illuminates a village, which awakens like a colony of ants, miles to go to feed themselves for another day. The crows overhead witness the ants, scurrying out from underneath the palms which shield the single-story cement dwellings from the relentless afternoon sun. The busybodies hunker down in the fields, women side by side with sisters and aunts, neighbors and cousins, donning the conical straw hats which protect their faces from the darkening and the heat of the day. The dainty hands, each with a single stalk of rice seedling, no more than 6 inches tall, skillfully push the heroic staple into the mud until it settles into the place where it will thrive and grow, giving the planters their rewarded survival. They owe their lives to the blessed crop, which gives them sustenance. They owe their age to the cursed crop, which robs them of years and sentences them to curved backs and rigid, hard skin. This is the land of their ancestors, a canvas of paint so vivid, so real, so far removed from the toil of the modern masses. These people have become one with the land, one with time, one with each other, as they etch out a noble existence for which 2,000 years of Vietnamese history owes them much. This was an excerpt from my novel, The Reach of the Banyan Tree. I'd encourage you to check it out in both print or ebook format. Vietnam lends itself to vivid experiences. Let me break down a few of these. Green, rice fields, different shades, the chartreuse young strands which become the vibrant forest green, which leads into harvest. Tree plantations, neat curved rows of young tea leaves ready to be plucked and dried. The papaya trees with large leafed fingers, and orange groves with hardy, ripe, green-colored oranges. But when you cut them open, it reveals the vibrant orange. The mint leaves and basil stacked high on a plate, ready to join a bowl of soup or a fragrant fish. That's the green of Vietnam. Wet, a drenched shirt from a humid walk to the market. Caught in the rain on your motorbike, sheets of rain which penetrate through any type of raincoat which you foolishly think will protect you. It won't. You will be soaked and shivering as the thunder and lightning close in on you, as you desperately try to make it home, but never on time. The rain always gets you. Little rain season, where for months on end a light drizzle lingers in the air, enough to give you a chill but barely enough to dampen the outside of your clothing. The big rain season, when daily storms drop a deluge which fills the streets with water, sometimes to the point of flooding. Flooded rice fields. The farmers divert huge quantities of water into the rice paddies so their heroic rice will thrive. Wet. That is the wetness of Vietnam. Smiles. The greeting of strangers, whether at a shop, on a street corner, on a sidewalk hawker stand, at the bus station, the small boys, the enthusiastic girls. Hello, hello, where are you from? Always with a smile. The tea offered. You sit down on a tiny plastic stool barely inches off the ground, and the smiles serve you the hot tea and welcome you in, whether in a friend's living room or a stranger's sidewalk stand. The smiles of Vietnam welcome one and all. Smells. French bread baking in ancient ovens and tiny brick houses. Steam from the road after a rain that has washed away the filth. Incense wafting onto the streets from the corner temple where the house's altar. Urine-soaked walls. Markets with a dizzying array of smells, hard to distinguish one from the other. These are the unmistakable smells of Vietnam. Sounds. Street vendors on bicycles calling their wares. Pho. The one wanting you to buy fresh bean curd. The vibrant markets, the clank, the chop, the calling out of the order, the raw meats, the fresh vegetables, the fried foods, the hot tea. Car horns, beeping for no particular purpose other than to be ignored. The sound of loudspeakers on the corner, telling the latest news or offering a local reminder of obligations or upcoming events. The jingle of a bike's bell. The steady clank of a water buffalo's bell as a herd passes from one side of the street to the next. The echoing sounds of karaoke spilling onto the streets. These are the sounds of Vietnam. The green for the sight, the sounds for the ears, the wetness for the touch, the smells for the nose, the smiles for the eyes. Vietnam surrounds the senses. But here's the strange dilemma. When I was in Vietnam being overwhelmed by amazing experiences, I still missed America. And when I was in America, I missed Vietnam. And that is the dilemma of this limited life of ours. One cannot experience everything. You only have what's currently under your feet. That can feel limiting and even upsetting, but there's little we can do about it. Vietnam made me appreciate America, how it functioned, its unique history, the melting pot culture, its government, its structure. But America made me appreciate Vietnam. Its close family relationships, close-knit communities, its laid-back attitude, its midday naps, its promise of excitement. On two occasions, I had the privilege of having Vietnamese friends visit me in America. It was so surreal to combine the two worlds into one. My Vietnamese teacher, Co Hien, came to visit my family with her friend. She was in D.C. for a while when we were in Western New York at the time. She took a bus to Pittsburgh, and I picked them up after a nightmare of a time trying to find them, but that's another story. And I drove them about 2.5 hours north through the Pennsylvania countryside and through the Allegheny National Forest at night to get where we were staying. I remember the amazement she had at all the animals we came across in the forest on the way. We spotted more than 20 deer, or should I say, our car avoided more than 20 deer. Plus, there was raccoons and opossums and, just all other kinds of animals. It was a cultural experience for her, for sure. Then we decided to take them to Niagara Falls. And when we told them we were going to see a waterfall, they said, okay, like kind of ho-hum because, I've been to a number of small waterfalls in Vietnam that, hey, were nice, but, this was before my trip to the waterfall in Cao Bang from episode 6, FYI. But anyway, when they finally saw Niagara Falls, they were blown away. Like, wow. They had no idea they were going to see this type of waterfall. Everything in America just seemed bigger, I guess, to them in a lot of ways. They were amazed. We had an amazing time together, and they fixed us a beautiful meal of Vietnamese spring rolls before they left as a thank you. Several years after that, we were living in Virginia. Another Vietnamese friend who was in DC at the time came to see us, and we had a fantastic time together. The funny story about him, we were at a restaurant, and he had ordered a dish, I can't remember what, and he asked the waitress for some chili. I didn't think anything of it at the time. And the waitress said, okay, and a few minutes later came back with a bowl of chili. My friend had this puzzled look on his face, and I just burst out laughing. It finally clicked in my brain. He was asking for, you know, chili, like chili sauce. That's what they would ask in Vietnam. I want some chili, and they would bring you, like hot sauce. But when you ask for chili in America, they bring you a bowl of beef chili. And so I had to explain to him what had happened. We all had a good laugh. And he ate, and he really liked the chili, by the way. Before we parted, he said something to me. He said, quote, "Now I understand." He wasn't talking about the chili. He didn't have to explain to me what he meant. I knew it. He was saying in one sentence how fortunate America really was. Whether he was referring to the road system that was beautiful, the steady power grid that was amazingly reliable, but it was more than that. The idea of freedom. I can pick up and move anywhere I want, anytime I want. Americans living unencumbered lives, doing what we want, when we want it. The opportunity for education in America is unparalleled in the world. Even in poorly performing schools, there are so many ways to get ahead in America through hard work and determination. Speech, the idea that we could say what we think, good or bad, right or wrong, correct or incorrect. It was our right to use our voice how we see fit. The freedom to worship or not worship how you want. The freedom to work or change jobs or start a business on a whim. A nation with unparalleled resources, 4 seasons, farmland to feed the world, water, oil, gas. Blessed. America is the most blessed country in the world, perhaps the most blessed country which ever existed. My friend saw that. He saw the tangible differences. He saw the things that I missed about America when I was in Vietnam. But now, here's the sobering part. America is in decline. That's what happens to liberal democracies, a slow death. It doesn't have to be in decline. but too many people have taken it for granted for too long. They have no perspective of what it's like to live in a country where you can't say what you want or you can't work where you want. And too many people have slithered up to the table of privilege and have demanded their share of that which they haven't created. There's a government which has been living off the creativity of the nation's brightest producers, while at the same time vilifying them and doing everything they can to destroy them. How about ESG? Bowing at the feet of these world bodies which don't have the interest of the United States at heart, or rather purposefully want to destroy the United States. We have opened the doors to the demons who wish to tear down the greatest and freest nation which has ever existed in the world. Too many Americans have not only welcomed these people in, they have handed them the keys to the treasury. I'm appalled when any statue in America is torn down. And I've said this before, if you don't agree with what a statue stands for, then use it as a history lesson to teach. But let's not erase history. I'm appalled when people say that if they had lived in the past, things would have been different. They wouldn't have owned slaves or done this or done that. They are, in fact, denying their own human frailty. I'm appalled when people paint the United States as nothing more than a conduit of racism and bigotry. Because it isn't. The United States has done more for more oppressed people of every color than any nation in the world. And we did it in spite of our flaws. I won't allow the flaws and imperfections of the past to taint the great American experiment. Because it worked. The coal miner from West Virginia, the poor Scottish immigrant who founded the greatest steelworks in history, the former slave who started the Tuskegee Institute. The success stories of Americans of every creed and background are countless, and they continue today even if the collective we refuse to see it. Because immigrants wouldn't want to come here if there was nothing for them. But they know better than many of our own. They know the promise, the hope, the aspirations, the possibilities that America provides one and all. Anyone with an idea, with an attitude of work, with a determination to continue on through trials and failures, can still achieve the American dream. I will always be proud of America. Traveling the world has truly allowed me to see its remarkableness. 10 years in Vietnam, 11 years in Malaysia, and 6 years in Saudi Arabia couldn't remove any of this from deep within me. It's who I am. I never left America, even after all these years. In a similar way, Vietnam will always be with me, more than the other places I've visited and lived. Maybe it's because it was my first extended experience overseas. Maybe it's because that I learned the language and the culture so deeply. Or maybe it's just because Vietnam was one of those special places that grab the heart and never lets go. I'm going to leave you with an excerpt from my very first novel called Beauty Rising. Martin, the protagonist, a 30-something from Pennsylvania who never really grew up, finds himself on an unexpected journey in the heart of Hanoi. And he finds out something about his father, and here's what he sees when he gets there. We crossed the street and started walking around the edge of the lake. People were everywhere, doing everything. A group of old men sat under a lamppost playing Chinese chess. A steady stream of joggers weaved their way through the commotion. A group of boys carrying wooden boxes approached every foreigner, asking if they wanted a shoe shine. Couples snuggled close on benches gazing at the lake, perhaps hoping for a turtle sighting. Sellers balanced a scale-like bamboo contraption over their shoulders, hawking exotic fruit and freshly baked baguettes, while others sold toothbrushes, toiletries, and toothpicks. One small boy tagged along with our threesome, halfway around the lake, imploring us to buy a pack of Wrigley's gum from him. The chaos overwhelmed my senses, and I became entranced by the ceaseless action and the unrelenting flow of people. Every few seconds I saw that girl, the one I had clung on to, the one who stole from me, the one with the innocent face and the smooth skin, the one that nearly smiled at me. But there she went again and again. Every thin face, every curved body, every long-haired girl looked identical to her. I wished the girl, whom I had held in my tight grip, had smiled at me. What would I have done? My dad knew what to do when a girl smiled at him. I was not like my dad. Magical. My heart stood squarely in a magical place. I could feel the swelling of my hands and the lump in my throat. This is Vietnam. This is where my dad left his soul. This is where the girl smiled at him. This is where my dad will remain forever. This is Mark Sasse for the Crossing Ideas podcast. If you like Season 1, please make sure to rate and follow on Spotify or wherever you listen to the show. Tell others you know about it as well. I'm in the midst of moving from Saudi Arabia back to America. I'll be working on Season 2 in the coming weeks on the other side of the move, so please stay tuned as there's lots more to come. Thank you for listening, and thank you all for your support.